And I'm Jack Wass, and I'm going to be your instructor for the lecture part of the class. I should mention, it's probably as good a time to mention this as any, that I may be listed, for those of you who are taking lab, as your lab instructor, as the professor of record. I actually have no information, no knowledge whatsoever about what they do in lab. All those decisions are made by different people, the curriculum, the grading, absences. My theory on the matter, and it's just a theory, is that by law they need to have someone as the professor of record who has a PhD. And I think that's why they do that. I mention that because from time to time I get emails about lab and lab assignments and what's due, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. So I just thought I would spare you the trouble. Lab questions should go to your TA or Carrie Nichols, whose office is up there on the, they're still doing labs in the same place, I expect, in the chemistry building. Okay, people are nodding. So her office is right on that floor, as is Dr. Amber Schaefer's, and she will be around also, and she's also involved in lab. But I mean, you can bring me lab questions to office hours, and I'll try my best to help. But in terms of any actual knowledge or authority, I have none when it comes to lab. Good. So this is our first class. I have 2 sections of Chem 227 this term. First, you guys. And then I'll get to leave, as I said, and go over and teach again in the round. That's section 505. You would be section 504. Location is here. You found it. Congratulations. Actually, that's probably why there's 30 people. It's because they're like, where the heck is it? Trust me, I don't blame you. Good. So what else can I say about myself? This is, I believe, my 6th year full-time at Texas A&M. But don't worry, it is not my 6th year teaching. Before I came down here, I taught for 16 years at a little school in Minnesota. And I hate cold weather. And all of my family is down south, what little family I have. And most of them are actually in the greater Houston area. Plus, some of you might know about Dr. Jim Pennington, who's also a lecturer here, and or also a professor in the department. And he and I went to grad school back in the 1990s. So I've known him and his wife forever. We go way back. He's an old friend of mine. So the opportunity presented itself, and it really seemed to make a lot of sense. So that's why I'm here. I also have a long-standing research relationship with Dr. Daniel Singleton, who's a research professor. I'm not a research professor. I just am a lecturer type, but I've been working with his group for a number of years as well. So I think that's about all you need to know about me. Oh, except that I have 2 cats, but we can do cat pictures some other time. Today, my main goal is to go through the syllabus, although I've gotten some emails from you guys, and I know you've been taking a look at it, which is good. I trust you've also been reading ahead in the textbook. In chapter 1, I think you will find that almost all, if not all, of chapters 1 and 2 is review from Gen Chem. So I don't know how much of that I'm going to go over specifically. I'll try to get to as much as I can, but we can talk more about that later. So this is basically, I guess, how we'll run class. I'm still sort of learning how to use all the controls up here, but I think this will work today. So those of you viewing remotely should be able to see the syllabus. We're going to go over that first. And then, as I like to say, God willing, when the creek don't rise, if I need to go to our chapter 1 class notes, we should be able to do that. And I even have a periodic table in reserve, should we need that today. Honestly, I'll be surprised if we get to do much more than go over the syllabus today. I'm always shocked, because I figure it'll take 15 minutes. It doesn't take 15 minutes, but we'll see. I realized another thing. Let me address the other elephant in the room. Dr. Wass, why are you not wearing a mask? Fair question. It's because I've already had and recovered from COVID. So I had it about 6 weeks ago, and thank goodness it was not a big deal. I had a mild to moderate fever and a mild cough. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to go through it again. I was sick, but In my case, I had sort of the normal seasonal viral flu about 3 years ago. That was 10 times worse. So that's the reason I'm making so bold as not to wear a mask. Of course, I'll put it back on before I leave, but just so you all know, you have nothing to fear from me in terms of either getting it from me or giving it to me. So that's the reason I'm doing that. Good, so there's my office. Reed McDonald, I have set up, I totally guessed at office hours. My feeling is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm gonna be mainly focusing on teaching my 3 classes. That being said, after my 2 Organic 1 classes, I'm gonna head back to my office because that ends at what, 10 minutes to 1. Roughly 2 hours later is my Chem 222 course that's way over in like the next county. And so there's no point my going home in between. So I would say, and I think I'm okay in saying this, if you want to come see me in person, if you're willing to do that, of course it's entirely optional. I am not allowed to require anything be in person. But if you want to, that's probably not a bad time to try to find me in. If that ends at 12:50, let's say from 1:30 to, or slightly before 1:30 to maybe shortly after 2 o'clock, I should be around. You'll probably want to call my office in that case. Normally, it's easiest to reach me by email, and I try my best to check my email at least every day. You'll also have noticed that I'm pretty talkative by email as well. I'll try to send you guys updates on things as often as I can. Just a word about kind of my personality in that area, since I've noticed that it gets a little misconstrued sometimes. And I think I said this in one of my emails. I am the sort of person who likes to think out loud. And I often do that in emails. I often say, here's what's coming up. Here's kind of the way I think it's going to go, but I'll let you guys know. And I always try to let you know. But just so you know that the first time I say something, that's not necessarily an ironclad decision. I do like to think out loud, because we're all going to have to think our feet on this term, I think, although I think there will be some distinct advantages to being able to teach in person and have class in person. Good, so what else do I need to say here? Oh yes, other than that, probably on Tuesdays and Thursdays, to be completely honest, I will probably mainly stay home. And I'm likely to be there most of the day unless I have errands or a doctor's appointment or like that. I'll try to keep you guys apprised of that if there's any major change to my schedule. But what I'll do is I'll get my laptop or something like that, and you'll use the same Zoom ID number. So all 32 of you who are Zooming in remotely, you already also know how to find me for office hours. So you get that thrown in for free. Good. But I'll try to be around then. Feel free to Zoom in. I'm happy to answer any questions. Please don't hesitate. Prerequisites, I don't need to go over all that. I think you can read that on your own. So required materials. I'm going to need to make a change here because I mentioned something about clickers here in the syllabus, and it looks like we're not going to do anything with clickers today, or the reef pulling or anything like that. But in order for the remote people to be able to participate, which could be you sometimes too. I mean, I don't know how this will work. It might, I already know, for instance, of some people that are going to be remote for 3 or 4 weeks and then they're coming back to campus. So we're all going to have to be a little bit flexible. And I don't know. It might be that there's a lecture where, you know, you're not deathly ill, but you also don't really feel like coming to class. You're a little under the weather. So you Zoom in for that class. It's not the end of the world. On top of it, I'm planning on taking what I learned last term with putting videos online. Some of you, I think, already found R86 Chemistry, which is my YouTube channel. Why R86? Well, R86 is shorthand for kind of like my other internet persona. Probably some of you guys do this as well. There's sort of me that's at work, and then there's this other guy that I am for leisure. And so that's why I use that title. But what I'm planning on doing, you can already see my videos from last term, although I don't think they'll do you too much good. They're from Organic 2. But I ultimately want to put up videos of our lectures here, except we'll be doing it after the fact instead of beforehand. I think it can be hugely helpful for students because you can watch the video and you can stop it, you can rewind it. You'll notice you can't really rewind the professor. Usually what happens, this always happens, in the middle of a lecture, someone will stick their hand up and say, Dr. Wass, can you say that again? And I'm like, I don't think so. It's already out of my head. So you won't have any of that problem. So I think that can be hugely helpful, and I really want to do that for you guys. I have a little bit of experience in video editing, nothing major, but my goal would be to trim the ends of the video, trim out all of the crap. If I go into a riff and start BSing for 5 minutes on stuff that's not relevant, which, let's face it, all of us professor types can do that, then I can cut that out. If I have my druthers, I might even cut the videos in half, cause 50, even 40 minutes is a little much. I think studies pretty much are in agreement that we all can handle 15 or maybe 20 minutes tops. So I'm gonna try to cut them down a little bit too. So that should start being available, let's say by this weekend. I'm gonna try putting up even this lecture. And the great thing is, well, I'm not gonna do both, right? I'm not gonna do both yours and Section 505s, since on any given day they should be about the same. But one of the two should go up there, and then I'll also be doing my 222 videos. So that's the plan for that. In terms of clickers, as I was saying, I think what's going to have to happen is we're going to be using this reef pulling with a cell phone app. So sorry, yeah, I see some of you have, although you might need that clicker for another class, but I would say if you've bought a clicker just for this class, it looks like you'll be able to return it. I should know for sure by Friday. Friday and Monday, and I'll have more information for you by email by then too. Since, as I said, signing up for my class is not intuitively obvious. Although I guess if we're using reef pulling, then you won't have to register your clicker, which is also not intuitively obvious. Excellent, so at least we'll learn how to do that one thing. So if we have time today, I'm keeping my eye on the time. Maybe I'll show you how to add into my classes. My classes are already available to add in for clickers. And I think I also sent you guys some information on signing up for OWL. Of course, no, nothing in OWL is going to be due this week. Of course not. But I talk in the syllabus about grading. We'll get to that more. Basically, clickers are going to be 10% of your grade, if you will. I'll just average all of your clicker scores together. Most of those scores are going to be for attendance. I might occasionally ask some questions for a point or 2 or 3 out of 10. So that's at least the plan. And as I said in the syllabus, I will drop at least the lowest 30% of your clicker grades, not even including excused absences. Those are not even included in that 30%. And if the spirit so moves me, I will feel free to be more generous than that. But I will commit to being no less generous than that. I will drop at least 30% of the lowest scores. And likewise, with the OWL, that's your online homework thing. OWL is meant to be for practice. It's, the way it's conceived is it's a way for you to work with the material and get some practice in. It's not about getting used to their question formats, which I sometimes would phrase things slightly differently. The feedback I generally get is that my exams are way clearer than OWL, which I think is, forget which one of the poets it was that used the term damning with faint praise, but you know, if faint praise is all I can get, I'll take it. It's not about getting sidetracked by question formats or anything like that. And it's also not meant to be about point getting. It's just meant to be about practice. And organic chemistry, to learn it, you must practice. There is no other way, as much as you possibly can. And so it's just another way to do that. That's why in the OWL part of your grade, which is also 10% of your grade, I guess I can start getting into that here. The way I've worked it for the last few semesters is as follows, because my first couple years here, or first couple semesters here anyways, I would have people in my office as the deadline approached, just trying to get every last little stupid point. And it was just so frustrating for everyone involved. So you'll see when you look at the syllabus, the way OWL grading works is all you need to do is average 80% on the OWL assignments, and you will get full credit at the end of the term. So, and you'll notice I didn't even say that you have to get 80% on every assignment. You just need to average 80%. And that's not that hard to do, by the way. There's basically two types of assignments. I haven't set anything up yet because nothing's going to be due before end of next week at the very earliest. But there's two types of assignments. One of them is called the mastery assignments. These are pretty, the word they like to use now, the buzzword is low stakes. Mastery assignments are very low stakes. You get like 10 tries on each question, and each question is 3 parts, and you will need to get 2 of the 3 correct in order to get credit. So getting 90, 95, 100% on mastery assignments is not a pipe dream, and you can work that out yourself. The corresponding EOC or end of chapter assignment, those are set up to be more like quizzes. So I think you only get 3 tries. You don't get to use hints or anything like that. So I think there is an error check. But as you can see, if you can get close to, you know, in the 90s, then if you get 65% on the EOC sections, you should be able to average 80% pretty easily. Now, you will not get any extra credit for overall averages higher than 80%. And I go over in the syllabus what we do if your overall average in OWL at the end of the term is less than 80%, you basically get the same deal. Basically, what we wind up doing is dividing it by 0.8, which sounds crazy difficult. It's not. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you ended the term with an OWL overall average of 64%, which I think you'll agree is pretty dismal. Well, 64 divided by 8 or 0.64 divided, however you wish to do it, you wind up with 80%. So for that 100 points part of your grade at the end, you'll get 80 out of 100. I think that's pretty generous because you go from 64, which is in the D range, to 80 out of 100. Now we're at kind of the B minus C plus area, right? So that's what I've done for the last several semesters, and I think it's worked out pretty well. It takes off a lot of the pressure. So I don't want you to focus on point getting. Now, because because you only have to average 80% to get full credit at the end of the term, I'm not going to make any individual changes to individual OWL grades after the fact. There are going to be some questions that you think are unfair sometimes, or that you think are not worded properly. Some of the time I would probably agree with you. Or there may even occasionally be one where you think you've entered the right answer, but it gets counted wrong. That's inevitable when computers are grading things. Now, that being said, I want you to know that I care about all my students. I desire to be fair. I always look at the overall results from OWL assignments, and if I can tell something really weird has happened, I will totally feel free to curve OWL assignments by adding the same number of points to everyone's OWL grade for that assignment. I've done that before, if it needs to be done. But because it's such low stress, because you only need to average 80%, I will not be making any individual changes to individual grades. Now, you can feel free to take something to me in office hours. Dr. Wass, I put this, it marked it wrong, what's going on? Feel free, please don't hesitate. That'd be completely fine. Usually 75, 80% of the time we find the student did actually do something wrong. Not always, there's gonna be some bugs. I think I've found and removed most of the bugged questions by now. But I do try to keep an eye on that. But any changes that I need to make, just so you know, I'll make to the class as a whole. I'm not going to make any individual grade changes, because you can imagine, with over 200 of you, that'd be a big mess if I did it that way. So that's the reason that I make it so that you only need to average 80%. You're going to miss some points and you think it's unfair. It's inevitable. But you only need to average 80%. It's not that big a deal. Good. So what else was I going to say about that? I feel like I had something. Oh, OWL, deadlines. OWL assignments in general are going to be due on Fridays. I generally make it Friday, 11:45 p.m. Why 11:45 p.m.? Because I never trust computers to work with midnight versus noon. It can be, right, it can be a big horror show. So that's generally going to be the case. Of course, nothing's going to be due this week. The earliest anything will be due is going to be thus Friday. What would that make it? Today's the 19th, 21st, 28th. So that's the earliest anything will be due. I try my best not to make more than one chapter's assignments due in the same week. I fear I'm going to have to do that for at least the first time, especially when you include the intro assignments, which are going to be optional, but I really recommend doing them. That's another thing about OWL assignments. Anything that says not graded is not graded. You don't need to email me and ask, is it not going to be graded? If it says not graded, it means it's optional. You will not get penalized for not doing it, but you probably still should anyway. Anything that does not say not graded will be graded, and you can always trust that. You don't need to worry about it. Mastery and EOC assignments will usually be graded. There are a few you'll find when we get there that are not graded. And the reason is that occasionally, especially on mastery assignments, they'll give me like only 3 problems. And I don't want to grade that. I don't think that's right for you guys. That now each question is, 3.3 points out of 10. I don't like that. I don't want to do that to you guys. So in cases like that, I'll just make it not graded and it'll become optional. But you can always trust it. If it says not graded, you won't be penalized for not doing it. But again, I recommend you do. And if it doesn't say not graded, then it is graded. You can always trust that. So why Friday night? Well, when I first got here, I had OWL assignments due on Monday night, because I think Dr. Pennington was doing it that way, and I was pretty much trying to plagiarize everything he did. And before long, people started complaining we want it to be Tuesday. And before long, people were saying it should be Wednesday. Well, you see where this is going. There is no good night to make it due. So my feeling with OWL assignments is I want to make them due Friday night so that you get it done and get it over with and can do other things on the weekend. So that's my idea with all that. But with these changes, it's worked out pretty well. So, yay, guess what, guys? Brand new grading policy this term. It's actually the same as all my other terms. But I think I've made it, I'm just going to try this. If it crashes and burns, we'll go back to the other way. Usually what I would say is the OWL part of your grade is 10% of your grade. Clickers are 10% also after, a certain number of low ones are dropped. I would then say each of the 4-hour exams is 15% of your grade. And you can see that's exactly what it says there. And the final exam is 20% of your grade. And this is what's known as, your grade is then what's known as a weighted average. And it's not that hard to calculate. I had written up a document showing people how to calculate what their grade is at any given time, how to calculate what grades they need to get on future exams to bring about a certain result, all these sorts of things that students are interested in. It seems to work. But my experience is it seems that I'm in the very small minority in terms of professors who do it that way. Most professors use a point system, right? You have to get so many points out of the grand total at the end to get an A, so many to get a B. And the reason I resisted for almost 20 years in changing to that is because I just didn't have the confidence that a point is a point is a point. But suddenly, last term, I had this epiphany. All I need to do is change it so that a point is a point is a point. Bingo, there you go. So that's how we'll do it this term. So all I really need to do, if each exam is going to be 15% of your grade, don't make it out of 100 points, make it out of 150 points, right? You see where this is going? It doesn't make any difference. You know, if you want to know what your, if you get 117 out of 150, you can easily handle dividing 117 by 150 and seeing what your percentage was on the exam. It's not that hard. And same thing, I just make the final exam out of 200 points instead of out of 100 points. And then problem solved. So let's try it. Since everything else is so new, I figure we'd try this as well. But that satisfies me, because now I'm confident that a point is a point is a point. Basically, I'll try to remember to make your OWL assignments out of 100. And likewise, I might even make each clicker session 100 points total, even though it seems kind of silly. We'll do that anyway. And then you can imagine averaging all of the 100-point clicker grades at the end of the term and dropping the 30% lowest. And then same thing with the OWL assignments. That will come out as a percentage, as a score out of 100. I think that just might work. So we'll see how that goes. 10 after 11, let's see. I think I'm actually nearly done with the syllabus. So in terms of the grading scale I use, it's basically 90s are A's, 80s are B's, etc. Two things concerning exams and grades that students want to know, and I think I covered it. In the syllabus. I should make sure that we did. If not, then I'll make sure I did. The first question everyone has is, will exams be curved? Yes, if it's necessary to curve them. Generally, as I look at what my other colleagues do, we usually are most comfortable if the exam mean is at least in the low 70s in terms of percent. So what would 70% of 150 be? 105 out of 150, maybe 110. That's usually what I will be aiming for. It might be, especially to be honest, these first few exams where it's largely review from Gen Chem, it might be that it's not been rare in past semesters for the mean to be 85%, in which case, bad news is there's no curve. The good news is you did so well, you don't need a curve. But for me, really, once I start seeing the exam average getting much below 70%, much below 68, then I start thinking of putting a curve on it by adding the same number of points to everyone's score, just to bring up the average a little bit. I need to be allowed to have free reign over that. To some degree, I've got to take a look in each case at the grade distribution. You know, if the mean is 67, but it's because one person got an 11, you know, that's not really, that score shouldn't really almost count in that way. So that's why I can't give you an always never type of thing. But will exams be curved? Yes, if necessary. I always curve any exams as necessary to make it fair. And again, judging by what my colleagues do, generally we consider fair to be an average at least in the low 70s, round and about, give or take, depending on what the overall average is, or what the grade distribution is. I should also mention, I had a habit when I had the exam grades be out of 100, it was pretty common for me to put on kind of a pre-curve or a little bit of extra credit. Like I would make 106 points possible and still grade it out of 100 points. I'll do the same for you guys. So maybe if there's 150 points possible, I might put on 158 or 160 points. I don't know. But I'll do the same thing for you guys. That would mean, by the way, in the old days, under 100 points, there would be people who would like 103 out of 100. You know, that counts as a little bit of extra credit then. So that will, I will plan to do the same thing for you guys as well. I really like to do that. And then if there's any curve necessary beyond that, I can't make that decision until I see all of the scores. I think you understand that. There's no way I can predict what's going to happen for any given exam until they're all graded. So that then brings us to the question of the other obvious question. So 90% is an A, 80% is a B. The next obvious question is, will I lower the cutoffs at the end of the term? And the answer is, I hope so. I want to, but I can't know that. It's impossible for me to know that until all of the data is in, all of the final exams are graded, and I've gone over everything. So what I found is I think it's wisest, I think it's safest to plan for the worst possible scenario. So let's just say officially 90 and up is an A, 80 to 89.9 is a B, and so forth. Let's just say that for now. Someone's going to get that 89.9, right? You know, and you also know it's going to be you, right? Murphy's Law. Honestly, that person is overwhelmingly likely to get an A. The only way they wouldn't is if a number of circumstances, just by chance, happen to go absolutely the worst way possible against them. There's been semesters where I've been able to drop those cutoffs little to none, but it varies from semester to semester. I can't possibly know till the end of the term. So that's why I just think it's best to assume the worst. And we'll say 90s are A's, 80s are B's, 70s are C's, and so forth. Just so you're not led by false hope or something like that. Good, so I don't think I need to say anything else about that. We still have actually 15 minutes. That's not bad. I should see. I wonder if there's a way for me to see if the participants have questions. Does it? It's not really. I mean, I assume it would give me some sort of thing if someone, because there's like a raise your hand command if you're viewing it remotely. I'm not seeing anything unusual going on. So we'll see. Did I leave out anything really obvious? Those of you that are here, any questions in the syllabus? Oh, yes. Oh, no, you won't need to. The question was, how are the exams set up? No, well, the thing is, that's actually a good point. I'm going to put up some old exams eventually. I didn't do it now. Of course, I can't promise your exams will look just like that, but it will at least give you an idea. Bearing in mind they're going to be out of 100 points, yours will be, the scores will be inflated so as to be out of 150, but it should give you at least an idea of the sorts of things to expect. But no, it will not be multiple choice, absolutely not. Yes? I think so. The question was, are we going to have SI sessions and who's my TA? I hope so. I don't really know. If not, there's office hours. I know I heard from at least one person that they're going to be my TA. I just haven't checked in. I hope to have more information for that by Friday. So I don't suppose the SI person is here. Usually they come to class the first day or at least the second day. You know, no one's running up to admit that. I should be able to figure that out by then. I hope we do. I always have had SI people. Oh, but you know what? We probably are going to have one SI person for both classes. That's probably what's going to happen. And so maybe they didn't come to this class. But I can tell you that one of my Organic 2 students from last year emailed me and said they're going to be my SI. So I think the answer is yes. And I imagine they'll reach out to you with information about where to go and what to do. But I should know, I should have boned up on that before coming here. But yeah, I should know for sure by Friday. Other sort of syllabus questions. So I am within my rights to make any changes to the syllabus through Friday. I might have to stretch that to Monday. There are a couple things that I might need to think over. But I'll, of course, keep you guys. I can tell you that nothing major is going to change. You know, it's not going to be our exams going from 60% of your grade to 80% of your grade. There's not going to be any big changes from now on. I mean, barring something absolutely unheard of and unforeseen. But I'm not planning any major changes. I'm still not quite clear how clicker/wreath polling is going to work. And I need to make some changes to the syllabus, but so, you know, do be checking to make sure that you're looking at the most recent version. But I'll let you know if I upload a new version of the syllabus. And I don't think there's going to be huge changes from now on. Never know, we might get a curveball thrown at us. But we're all going to be flexible. It's always possible that they may go to completely online at some point. Oh, speaking of online, and speaking of exams, so I would like to do the majority of the exams in person. And I'm hoping that most of you will be able to make it here. Obviously, there's plenty of room to spread out. Those that are participating remotely, well, we'll make an online version. We did online exams for the second part of the term last term, and we figured out a way of doing that. It was a little bit fiddly, but it more or less worked, and we got through it. So I'm hoping that most of you will come to take the exam in person. Stuff happens. People get sick. I understand that. We'll make arrangements. But the more of you that can take it in person, the better, I would say. It just makes it easier for the graders. That being said, though, you may be aware, final exams are going to be online for sure this term. So I'm thinking it makes the most sense for us to do one of our exams completely online, just so that you all get the experience. And I think it kind of makes the most sense. You can tell me if I'm crazy. Okay, I'm definitely crazy. You can tell me if I'm wrong about this. I think I'm right. I think it makes the most sense for our 4th hour exam to be online, because that's the one that's closest to the final. I just kind of thought that was a good idea. I mean, I'm not going to make anyone happy, but I'm certainly open to suggestions, at least insofar as possible. Granted, again, that I'm not going to be able to make everyone happy. But I thought that made the most sense, because if we just save it all for the final exam, well, I don't know if any of you were involved in the big fiasco that was lab finals last term. Oh my gosh, it was an absolute horror, because it wasn't tested. So I don't want to put us through something like that. So that's my plan. Let's make the first 3 exams, obviously if it changes I'll let you know, but let's make the first 3 hour exams in person to the greatest extent possible. And we'll do the 4th hour exam completely online. So that I think would make the most sense. Good. So let's see, I've got 10 minutes left. And I've left also some other introductory material on eCampus there that you can peruse when you get a chance. A couple other things I guess I should say. Two things that you need to understand. There's probably going to be like Monty Python. 3 things, 4, 5 things. Well, 2 things that you need to understand. One is that I do not and I will not teach to tests. You need to understand that up front. I do not teach to tests. I teach a body of information with the goal of helping my students to become competent in that body of information. That's the first thing. Now, I mean, I hope there's at least some correspondence. There'd better be. But in my lectures, I'm not especially teaching to tests. I'm not especially drilling you guys, okay, here's what the question format's going to be, here's what you need to put in order to get credit. I don't make it my aim to teach that way, and neither do my colleagues. Now, that being said, one of the things I've learned just in recent years is some students are used to learning that way. And at least at the beginning, they kind of need a little bit of that. So I will try to find a happy medium, at least at first. But the goal for organic chemistry really is as follows. Let's think of this question. Usually if you ask someone why they're taking this class and they're not a chemistry major, which I take it most of you are not, why are you taking this class? Well, I'll need to know this material later on. And they're kind of smirking to themselves. And that probably is true to an extent. I can certainly tell you those of you going on to biochem are going to need this material later on. And we'll cover actually some biochemistry and organic chemistry too. We cover biochem from an organic chemist perspective. And I've already gotten a lot of feedback, plenty of students saying, Dr. Wass, you were exactly right. This was very good preparation for biochem. So I'm not the one saying it. It's people who have gone before. And it's nothing special about me. The other lecturers do it too. So That being said, let's pose the question, let's pretend that there's not a single thing in either this term or next term that you're ever going to need to know to do your job. Let's just say, let's just stipulate that. What I would then say is you still need to be here because there's something about learning organic chemistry that enables you to learn in new ways, that enables you to think in new ways, and that enables you to learn how to master material, not just memorize it. And that's the reason that I think that organic chemistry is required for so many of these other majors, which I guess is good for me because it means I have a job, but I really do honestly believe that. That, I think, is the reason you're here. And so the more you can address this with that attitude, the easier I think you'll find it. This is about learning new ways of learning. And God knows, that's not easy. That's uncomfortable. I get that. But that's really what I consider my job here, is to usher us all little by little into that place where we're able to learn things in a different way and really master material. That's going to be the goal here. The first part of the class is going to be about setting up the background. You know, inevitably, we have to learn the terms. And I would say at least the first 5 chapters are of that type. Then in chapters 6 and 7, we start to get into the real honest-to-goodness organic material. Other things I can tell you just in terms of, in brief, this being our first day, one thing you will notice, and I get a mixed response, mostly positive response, but mixed on this, I think you will find very quickly that there is almost no math in organic chemistry. I won't say zero, but very little. The one place you may use some math is in lab, if you're taking lab. There you might get to practice all of that stoichiometry stuff that you used to love, grams to moles, moles to grams. I know you loved it. I know you loved it because I've also taught Gen Chem as well as organics. So I know, I know what you've been through with that stuff. So you might get to use some math in lab. Very, very little math in the lecture material. Again, I can't say zero, but very little. Mostly what we use in terms to in order to communicate the material in organic chemistry, mostly what we use is drawing structures. And so even as you get ready for class on Friday, I really wanted to put that bug in your ear. The one thing that is absolutely critical for success in organic chemistry is to learn how to draw structures correctly. That's how I used to say it. I've added something on over the last decade or so. It's learning how to draw structures correctly and quickly. That's utterly critical in order to be able to succeed in this class. And we have some background on that from Gen Chem, which I'll go through probably starting on Friday. So that's another piece of advice I can give you, but it's very little math. It's mostly drawing structures. That and another art form sort of known as arrow pushing or mechanisms. That's going to be something new. And I have any number of rants to give on that idea, but that can wait until Friday and Monday since I know what's coming. And I don't always like it. But that being said, good, so I think that's a good place to start. So I still have, what, 4 minutes? Well, don't they say that the professor should start with a definition? I guess that's a good place to start at the very beginning of the class. So what is organic chemistry? Well, first of all, what is chemistry? I think you know this from your Gen Chem class. Chemistry is usually described as the science, as the study of matter and the changes that it undergoes, with the understanding that when we're talking about changes, we're not talking about physical changes. We're not talking about it changes from up here to on the table, right? That's not a chemical change. We understand that intuitively. That's the domain of physics. So what then is special about organic chemistry? Well, chemistry becomes organic. And again, it's a hard definition for me to draw a really hard, bright line around. But I would say, usually they say organic chemistry is the study of carbon compounds. You gotta be careful, you know, Sodium bicarbonate, baking soda, NaHCO3, that is carbon in it. But I think we all know instinctively, NaHCO3, that's an ionic compound, that's a salt, that's inorganic. So that being said, there is some point at which a compound has a certain amount of carbon and hydrogen in its structure, especially carbon and hydrogen. There can be other elements, but there's some point, I'm not comfortable giving you an exact number, an exact place, but there's some point where we cross over the line so that the properties of the compound are overwhelmingly affected by having the carbon and hydrogen in it. That does lead to some interesting things, by the way. CO2, carbon dioxide, inorganic. I'm comfortable saying that. Another weird one, H2O, water, no carbon. Water is inorganic, strange but true. You do get some weird ones. Carbon tetrachloride, CCl4, it's a liquid, it's pretty volatile. You know, it looks a lot more like an organic compound, but I guess we would have to say CCl4 is inorganic. That's getting right on the line there, you see. But at some point, a molecule has enough carbon and hydrogen in it that its properties are overwhelmingly determined by having the carbon and hydrogen in it. And it's those compounds that we're going to study this term and next term. Those compounds whose properties are such because they contain enough carbon and hydrogen to make them behave like what we call organic compounds. And I honestly, I kind of think that's about all I'm going to be able to say today, because I'm having 11:29. I'm just seeing if I missed anything on the syllabus. By the way, I know one thing I missed on the syllabus. We can end with this. I left a schedule for each lecture day near the back of the syllabus. That's how I think it's going to go. Each day then has what all have expected you to read, so you pretty much should have read chapter 1 by Friday's class. I guess I have just one last thing I should also say, just because it might help you guys, and then we can end. One thing you need to understand also is not every single thing that you need to know for exams is going to come out of my mouth in class. There's just not enough time. We have 150 minutes a week. I'll tell you, at my previous school, we had 3 70-minute classes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I had 210 minutes per week. And still, it was not possible for every single thing to come out of my mouth. So that's something you will need to understand. I've tried to be open about it. I've tried to give some information in the syllabus as to, you know, how to know what's important to know. And as I said, I'll be posting some old exams, probably by sometime next week at the latest. But that is one thing that I want you to understand. I do try to get to the things that I believe need the most explanation. So with that, I'm most definitely out of time. So have a great day, everyone, and I will see you Friday. Same bad time, same bad channel.